The first school experience for all us kids was kindergarten at the Ruth Ruff Elementary School. Its name was later changed to Malcolm X Elementary. After that, 3 of us went to St. Cecilia School, grades 1 through 12. Our mom and dad had gone to St. Casmer's, and they wanted us to be in a Catholic school, so they went to this additional expense. Also, at the time, the church was very encouraging about giving your child a Catholic education. In some cases, they were just short of coercive. Dad was a driver salesman for the Gordon Baking Company. He delivered Silver Cup bread products to corner stores and markets up and down Michigan Avenue. He had done the same for his father's bakery, and Uncle Bernie said Dad always enjoyed it. Many of his Silver Cup customers may have been in the locations where he delivered his father's bread, as they were in the same old neighborhood. Mom worked at Burke's Bar, just 3 streets away, whatever it took to send us to a good school. St. Cecilia School was part of the Archdiocese system of parochial schools. The teachers were nuns in the Immaculate Heart of Mary order. Most of them had earned advanced degrees and were considered the finest. The discipline was strict, and getting a low mark on your report card in behavior, conduct, was a disaster. Boys wore slacks, shirt and tie. Girls dressed in pleated skirts and blouses and wore beanies, which were universally hated. If you lived close enough, you could go home for lunch, but you must return on time for afternoon classes. Most of us brought our lunch in a brown paper bag, which we folded up and returned home for the next day's use. 1 bag per week. We usually got a sandwich and a piece of fruit, and could buy milk for a nickel in the lunchroom. The nuns also raised money by selling candy and chips during lunch. Every school day started with Mass at 8 a.m. Afterward, we walked in silent columns to our classrooms. Classes in elementary grades were standard, that is, everyone took the same subjects. These always included religion. The school was evaluated by the state's university system every year, as the law required for private schools. We were tested to make sure we were getting the required levels of learning. We always passed, and the school was always certified because the Archdiocese standards were higher than the state's. Our parents and teachers were very proud of this. They believed that this, combined with the greater standard of discipline, gave us the best education they could provide. Stash was 2 years older than Anne-Marie and 3 older than Paul. Every teacher in every class knew who we were and how to spell our name before we could. Report cards came on the same day and were always compared to one another, so there was pressure to do as well as your brother and sister. Being third in a line of all A students kept Paul paying attention. We got cash awards from Mom and Dad for A's, usually a nickel per A. Kindergarten at Ruth Ruff was half days. Mom or Stash walked us there. It was about half the distance as St. Cecilia's. It was a socializing experience, and we maybe had an introduction to the alphabet. There were group games, toys, puzzles. The playground was used for games and exercise. Half-day school continued at St. Cecilia's because it was very crowded. You were assigned to either mornings or afternoons for the first couple of grades. Mom and Dad tried to get Paul and Anne-Marie on the same schedule. Since you had no desk of your own, you carried all your books and papers with you back and forth every day. There were still about 30 students in each classroom. At about 3rd grade, you went a full day, but in many cases were in a split class. That is, the class had 2 grades, so sometimes Paul and Anne-Marie were in the same classroom but different grades. This was an advantage to both younger and to older students who acted as peer tutors, and it meant there was less boredom. The success rate for students was high at St. Cecilia's. This was because the nuns took it as a personal responsibility that everyone should learn to read and do basic math. Once in high school, Same school, so everyone knew your capabilities, students were sometimes tracked into college prep or vocational programs. Most girls were in a little of both. That is why Anne Marie later went to a public night school to take drafting, but had 2 years of sewing at St. Cecilia. You could take drafting at St. Cecilia's if you were a boy, and you took general math instead of algebra and geometry. It was logical to the nuns, and they had a lot to handle. Classes in high school were always 30 to 40 students. Besides the curriculum, St. Cecilia offered sports. There were track and field, football and basketball for the boys. For the girls, there was intramural basketball. Ballroom and square dancing also were part of PE. Music lessons were available for an extra fee. There was also a school library. Students who were eligible could act as librarians. If you go to St. Cecilia's today, you will see an L-shaped school and a separate building that is detached, but is almost opposite the wing of the school. When we were students, this building that used to be the church was gym, lunchroom, and extra classrooms. For some reason, students were especially happy when their classroom was in this building. It might have been because you were away from the principal's office, but it seemed that the rules were more lax there. The upstairs served not only as the basketball gym, but it had a stage. The nuns were adamant about producing at least one musical a year, and they were pretty good productions. This building is still being used and was later leased to the city of Detroit. Here, many future college and NBA stars practiced.